Hey, I'm back after 56 plus hours in a Greyhound bus. Ow. Anyway, and if you're wondering how I did in the tournament, well, I fell on my head and got kicked out in the first round. And I also won these 2 gold medals in the other 2 styles I entered, but those stories aren't really as interesting. Anyway, now I think before I left, I switched over to the style where instead of just describing the whole episode in point-by-point detail, I did it really briefly, and I got some comments saying they actually kind of preferred that, and I mean, I think that I did like how that flowed a little bit better, so I mean, I'm not going to just cut out the summary, but I think I am, though, going to use it more as, well, I'm going to tie both summary and opinion together. I'm going to do it more like an actual review here instead of just me breaking the two apart, so, okay, and that's brings me to this episode, which is The Secret of My Excess. And, well, I would have to come back to this episode, but, well, yeah, just first the brief overview. It's, Spike's birthday, and he's, well, he was saving up a gem, a fire ruby, to eat as a birthday dinner, but when Rarity comes by and falls in love with the gem for how rare it is, he gives it to her, and instead of eating it, and that becomes the subplot, because meanwhile, when he gets a lot of presents for his birthday, it activates his dragon nature, which makes him start to become greedy, start to try to hoard stuff, and which in turn makes him grow bigger, which makes him become greedier until he goes out of control, and only his act of kindness towards Rarity can redeem him. But anyway, though, like I said, oh boy, not the best episode I could have asked for to get the series started again, because I don't think I'm gonna get a lot of favorable votes on what I think of it, because this is actually the closest I've ever come to just hating an episode of this show, which ends up pretty bullshit, because I've already given a thumbs down to an episode, and come close, I think one other time, so, yeah, but this, closest I've come to just hating it through and through, because this episode is like a giant dump on the concept of Spike, as far as I could see, because, yeah, you think about the message here, it's just his nature that, like, yeah, because what have we had before? Everybody's differences make them special. The typical sort of messages like that. What? Don't be Guild of the Griffin and go thinking that the different species are worse than you just because they're different. It's like, nope, Spike's a dragon, so the only reason he's not a terrible monster is because it just hasn't been on the table yet. He has been restricted to one lousy birthday gift from Twilight every year, because I said all he ever gets is a book from her that he's not interested in, but apparently that's the way it should be, because otherwise he goes wild with greed. So, yeah, it's like they're kind of removing the credit for anything good we have seen from him. His last episode didn't seem to appreciate him very much, but this is like actively going after him, like just everything. Like he can't even control. We've seen other dragons in this show before too. Spike actually gets dumber as he matures, and we've seen that other dragons can talk in complete sentences and seem aware of everything that's going on around. They seem to be able to communicate with other creatures and stuff. Spike, this seems to be a bit of a retcon too, because now it's like basically what they say is being a dragon equals you grow up bad. The characters repeat that a ton of times. Like, well, what do you expect him to do? He's a dragon, and and they actually confirm at one point. Like Twilight gets the most informed opinion, saying that it's just his nature. You can't let him collect anything, or he goes wild with greed. This is what he's meant to do. So, it would sound like that maybe I'm reading too deep into it, that that the writers would say to me, like, well, no, you're not supposed to take that away from it. It's just a one-time thing that for Spike, it's just something that can happen to him once. It's not really supposed to reflect on him, except that not really. They do actually sort of tie it into Spike himself. It was like, because at first, where it starts to go wrong, I mean, the birthday party and everything is actually really fun. Like, it actually reminded me of Twilight at her first sleepover, how she sort of lost her head a little bit and was all delighted and stuff. Because, yeah, he is, like, so shocked at just everybody going out of their way to give him stuff for the first time. He thanks them a whole ton of times. He gets a little sappy, but I mean, and they acknowledge it that he's getting sappy, but I mean, it, like, as per usual with the show, it's played like you would expect such a scenario to happen. It's not played up, it's played straight, and so it works. But then, when he runs off to get a present the bakers had for him, he's going home. He bumps into the school teacher character, and when she hears that it's his birthday, she gives him a hat, and then he starts, like, they actually have him start considering this whole thing. Like, let's see, if I mention it to the bakers, I get a cupcake. If I mention it to the teacher, I get a hat. And, like, right then you can see what they're gonna do. And I just, like, I knew exactly what was gonna happen when he said that, and it's like, this is gonna get painful, isn't it? And I mean, then yeah, sure enough, he starts pressuring other characters to give him stuff, which is, I mean, Spike has been a schmuck before, but this is completely out of character for him. He was never just like, well, okay, maybe not completely. I mean, he did try to set up, well, okay, put it this way. This is, like, the writers have sort of dumped on Spike before, and this is sort of going into that territory and taking it even a step farther. It's just for the sake of this conflict, essentially. And then Twilight comes in and catches him in the act, and she stops him. She apologizes to the character who I don't think we've ever met before, who he was trying to get a gift from, and sends her on her way. And Spike actually repents. He apologizes. Oh, I just don't know what came over me. I'm sorry for this. And I mean, it's like, so you're thinking, like, okay, I guess it's not that bad. I mean, maybe he'll have, like, up and down issue, sort of a back and forth issue with this the whole episode. But then, like, the minute she leaves, it's like, nope, he was just faking that to get her to leave. He snaps right back to her, like, who else has a present for Spike? So, yeah, and so that's where, that to me is the point where it's like, okay, any explanation, any reasonable explanation, I should say, pretty much goes out the window. It's just like, nope, Spike's born bad. You have to, you can't give him the same courtesy everyone else gets, or he goes bad. So, and then, just when you think this episode couldn't shoot itself in the foot anymore, the one who confirms that this is how it, who explains that dragons are just bad, that they're inclined to go wild with greed, that, you can't give them the same courtesy as ponies because they're different, they're born bad, is Zecora. The character they introduced to criticize prejudice, to say don't judge others for being different. Zecora is the one who says that Spike is bad because he's different. Like, and I mean, I shouldn't say that there's no, I mean, I don't think there's a reasonable explanation for it, but, I shouldn't say there's no explanation for it, because, I mean, you could always think of an explanation for pretty much anything. It's always possible to think of something, and I mean, and lots of people, when I've made the mistake of taking that approach in the past, have attempted to offer me explanations. So, I mean, what I should be saying is, wouldn't it be better storytelling if? Wouldn't it be better if, instead of just saying it's Spike's nature, that he's just bad, and, like, taking a dump on the character, to the very concept of the character, wouldn't it have been better storytelling if he actually had, if it actually had just been him thinking, like, okay, this is the first time I get all this stuff. I mean, and I know maybe it's wrong, but I just like it so much. What if he had to confront just the possibility of greed for the first time, and had to go back and forth on it, and and I mean, actually had played into his personality instead of just saying that his evil side overwhelms anything we've seen from him so far, just renders that moot. And okay, or I mean, if you really wanted to just go that route, just like Spike turns into a terrible monster, well, I mean, then don't. Then wouldn't it be better if they didn't just make something up that it's just his nature to get him to that point that kind of sacrifices what we've seen from him so far that's evidence to the contrary. What if he was under a spell or something like that, or I don't know, there'd just been an explanation that doesn't like unnecessarily dump on the character like that. So I mean, just so many ways. I mean, I think that it explicitly implies just sort of an insult to the character, really a mean. Well, even more importantly than that, because I mean, you can do whatever you want with your own characters, but it's just a very mean-spirited concept that he's evil because he's different. I mean, so yeah, and I just, yeah, don't go for it. I think that they could have done it better, and so yeah, that part of the plot, no love for. But I keep saying it only came the closest to making me hate it, and why do I keep saying that? Well, it's not every day that Rarity could save an episode, but actually, she's kind of great here. Like, her subplot with Spike, not only is it kind of sweet, but it actually does sort of provide Spike with a way back in that, I mean, even if it doesn't sort of negate everything that happened before, it does at least give Spike himself some redemption to say that, because what happens at the end is that he has kidnapped Rarity, she's the most valuable treasure of all, but then he remembers giving her the gem, and he has like a flashback to when she kissed him for it, and just how that was so much better than where he is now, so that, yeah, doing right by Rarity really is what he likes the most, so it provides a little bit of redemption for Spike, and in the midst of all this, how bad can Spike get plot, then when Rarity re-enters the picture, Spike goes King Kong on her and captures her. I mean, she turns it into this just like banter between her and Spike that is hilarious. I mean, they arguing back and forth, Spike the Dragon making fun of her doing this every time she tries to lecture him, and she's not actually scared at all. He roars in her face. She's just like, how rude, with her hair blown back and the mohawk, how rude. Or where she tries to chew him out for everything. It's like, you used me against my friends, you kidnapped me, etc. And which, as terrible as it is, I could sort of understand because you're a dragon and everything. And of course, after that, she's going to list the worst thing of all, which is going to be something silly. I mean, that part of the joke is predictable, but where she says that, yeah, just as horrible as it is, I could understand because you're a dragon and everything. That was a perfect delivery, very funny line, and just lots of very funny lines from Rarity this time. So, all in all, and then there's the scene where Spike snaps back to normal, and they're suspended on the side of a mountain now, and they're going down together. I mean, they have to make it sort of a dramatic moment because I guess it's scary, and that could go melodramatic so fast and sink it, but they don't overplay it, and they make it a sweet little moment there too, where Spike actually confesses his crush to Rarity, but she covers his mouth before he can finish and just like sort of looks at him knowingly that, okay, yeah, she knew all along. But okay, so Rarity is the redeeming factor of this episode, which I said the last time she was with Spike was a dog and pony show, and I said that was more about her, but Spike ended up taking it over, so I guess this is where she gets to return the favor, so okay, and I mean, and otherwise, there are other redeeming factors. There's the bit where Spike robs Applejack and Pinkie Pie, and those are also very funny bits. You get sort of a visual gag with Applejack, and you get Pinkie Pie throwing cake at him, which is just giving him more stuff. But Pinkie Pie's like, I'm not giving him cake, I'm assaulting him with cake. And then he steals it all. She yells, how dare you take the cake? And just Pinkie Pie, her straight-faced delivery with this stuff. Very funny, so okay, so very split right down the middle. here. There's a lot of very good stuff about it. There's a lot of very bad stuff about it. And I mean, I guess, so it's kind of more like All's Well That Ends Well than, yeah, green isn't your color, or something that just didn't do anything for me. So, but it's not marginal this time. It's sort of an intense split, and, well, I guess it's not a boring episode, so, sure, go for it. One of my least favorites so far, but not quite a thumbs down, so, okay. And the next episode now is Hearth Swarming Eve, so come back for that one. Hopefully it'll be better, because I'm not going to be all skeptical of the show this time. I know it's had dips before, but I'm not sweating it, so yeah. I'm hoping there won't be too many more negative reviews like this, because that never seems to go very well for either party here, so okay. Just bear with me here, and I'll see you next time.